Right, hello guys, and welcome back to Warlocks are OP, episode 63. Today, I have a Void Warlock build for you that, before I go into any specifics, I just want to show you what it does. So, I'm just going to hold my grenade here, chuck it, it's going to spawn a bunch of Seekers, kill these enemies, and I have it back already. I'm going to throw another one, it's going to do the same thing again. Tons of Seekers being spawned, got my grenade back again. I have Devour, I have heals, I have infinite grenades. I can just do this over and over again as long as there are enemies to kill. And that, dear viewer, is only possible because of a change that has been made to the Contraverse Hold exotic gauntlets. Yes, the Void Warlock Classic is actually back. Now, I hear some of you may be saying, wasn't Contraverse nerfed at the beginning of Edge of Fate? Wasn't it tweaked? Well, that nerf has actually been undone, for starters. And now, these gauntlets are actually just really good again. Think of classic Contraverse from back in the day. This is literally what that is, just again. I can't stop saying how good this recent update 9.1.5, has been for Warlocks. They have so many cool builds now. You guys have seen on the channel that we've posted already. I've posted a AFK Buddy build, another with pure Arc Warlock, and now we have the Void version, which unfortunately doesn't use buddies. However, an equally strong change was made to the Void Warlock kit in said update 9.1.5 that affected the behavior of all sorts of grenades with the Chaos Accelerant aspect. And specifically, today, we are going to be using the Axion Bolt grenades, because it says that the Axion Bolt detonates twice and has enhanced Seekers. Now, that is going to be the basis of this build that we're going over today. We're going to have a bunch of gameplay going on in the background, showcasing you this powerful build, but, let's just kind of take things one step at a time and explain everything in a good and easy way for you to understand how this works. So let's just kind of focus on Contraverse Hold for starters. It has the main perk Chaotic Exchanger that states you resist incoming damage while charging your Void Grenade with Chaos Accelerant. Charged Void Grenades return grenade energy on hit and apply Weaken, which by the way is a new addition. I think that was changed in the Ashen Iron patch. I can't remember if it was Ashen Iron or Edge of Fate. I believe it was Ashen Iron. But basically, they have been unnerfed and they return a good amount of energy now. And because they apply Weaken, it means that you don't have to use Echo of Undermining to, forfeit, 20? Yeah, so you don't have to lose 20 grenade stat now in order for your grenades to apply Weaken. They just do them by default if you have Contraverse Hold on. And the energy return is very significant, as you saw there. In fact, I'll just test it on a stationary target here. We have Carl, and if I just place it on the ground, it'll spawn a bunch more Seekers. You see it explodes twice, and it regenerates about half or 60% of my grenade. And because I have over 100 grenade stats, we'll get to that shortly, it gives back the maximum amount, and I'm very much on my way to getting my second grenade very quickly. In fact, I will get it. If I throw my second charge here, I will get a third from the regen that it gives back to me. Now you might be wondering, why do I have 2 grenade charges? Well, that was also because of the buff to Chaos Accelerant, where it says just at the bottom of the description, it grants an additional grenade charge now. And this was in this week's update, so this is entirely new, and it's honestly massive. It lets you throw so many more grenades than you used to. Just the fact that it allows you to have 2 now is so good, it can't be understated. And as you'll be seeing in the background gameplay, I'm throwing so many grenades, I'm making Shax proud. It's wonderful. So yeah, those are the changes to Contraverse. Very good exotic, restored to its former glory, so any doubters, I hope I've dispelled those for you. So now let's go a little deeper into the subclass. So I'm just going to start by saying that you can use whatever super you like. I just like Nova Bomb Cataclysm. You could go Nova Warp, you could go Nova Vortex. It's up to you. This one just feels the best to me, Cataclysm. I've also gone with Healing Rift. Pocket Singularity we are locked to. However, it was also buffed in Ashen Iron, where it now gives you 2 charges of the melee rather than 1. And actually, don't underestimate this melee ability, because I'll spawn in some enemies and it actually does like a considerable amount of damage now. Nothing amazing, but it's also nothing to scoff at either. So if I chuck it at this enemy here, it's alright, if I break the shield beforehand just to see how much raw health it actually does, it's okay. You'll definitely be able to kill red bars with it, so it definitely feels better than it did before, and it travels further. It also received a buff, so, nothing special, but just worth pointing out. Then we have the Axion Bolt. Now, this grenade has been barely ever used in PvE. It's more of a PvP thing in the past, but now, I would argue, is one of the better options, if not better than things like Vortex, which is what people used to use with Contraverse Hold. And the reason why it's so good is because of Chaos Accelerant. Like I said earlier, it makes it so it detonates twice, and it has enhanced Seekers, and as you saw, it just spawns a boatload of Seekers, and those Seekers actually do a pretty good amount of damage as well. If I spawn Carl back in, taking a look at just the raw damage of the grenade once it spawns all of the Seekers, We take a look here, it does 2,829, which is really good for a grenade, to be honest. So remember 2,800, I'll just wipe that from the screen. For comparison, a Touch of Flame fusion grenade is going to deal 2,500. So it's just a little bit more than a Touch of Flame Fusion, and you have them way more often than you do a Touch of Flame Fusion. Yes, you could use Starfire Protocol. These things, they recharge so incredibly quickly with Contraverse Hold that, you know, you will have them more often than on Solar. So yeah, that is why we are taking Chaos Accelerant, because it just massively boosts the offensive power of our Axion Bolt. Then for the second aspect, we have Feed the Void. You just basically cannot run anything else in this slot. If you're playing Void Warlock, which by the way, does not have an incredible amount of ways to get damage resistance. Yes, it has plenty of healing, so we must rely on the healing because we don't have too much access to Void Overshield. However, we are going to tweak with that with our fragment choices, but Feed the Void, you basically have to run this. It's Devour. It lets you get your grenade back so incredibly quickly with kills. Kills from the second grenade you get from Chaos Accelerant will now feed into more charges so that it's just kind of feeding itself infinitely. And with Enhanced Devour and over 100 grenade stat, you're going to be getting it back so incredibly quickly, like you saw in the opening clip. Despite Child of the Old Gods behaving like a grenade now with the body changes that just came in the recent update, it's still not incredibly powerful. I was thinking of messing with a Briarbind setup, but I don't think it's going to be quite as powerful as the build we are discussing today. So moving on to the fragments now, there are a few ones that I want to point out. Echo of Persistence as your first one. This one makes so void buffs applied to you, such as Invisibility, Overshield, and Devour, have increased duration. This means that your Devour is going to last 50% longer. It'll go from a 10-second cap to a 15-second cap, and same applies to Overshield, but we won't be getting any invisibility. So this is just to make you have Devour for longer. It's a pretty important fragment for any Void Warlock build. And we have Echo of Instability. Defeating targets with grenades grants volatile rounds to your Void weapons. And we are using a Void weapon. In fact, we have Reckless Oracle. This could be any Void weapon of your choosing, though. You could literally use a Recluse if you're a fan of that, or any of the new gear weapons that are Void. You know, it's totally up to you. I just quite like the Reckless Oracle from Garden of Salvation. And it also gives you plus 10 melee stats, so, you know, it helps. Third, we have Echo of Expulsion. Void ability final blows cause targets to explode. This is like the Bloom explosion from Destiny 1, if anybody remembers that. And this gives you plus 10 super as well, so it's just a little bit of extra explosive damage for whenever you're getting kills with your grenades, which is going to be basically all the time. Then we have our main survivability fragment, which is Echo of Vigilance. This states that defeating a target while your shields are depleted grants you a temporary Void Overshield. So this is a full Void Overshield, and it lasts for about 7 seconds or so, and it's just for whenever you get a kill when you are in your critical state, it'll give you that Overshield. So remember that an Overshield has a 70% damage resistance on it, so this is going to be our main way of getting a little bit of extra survivability. The other way is going to be through our set bonuses, but I will get to that shortly. So that is about it for the subclass. Now, I also wanted to go over weapon choices here, and because we actually aren't firing our weapons a lot, you can kind of just use whatever you like. I like to switch between Mint Retrograde or New Malpais. You will be seeing these in the gameplay in the background, but those are just there to kind of deal with champions. And also, Mint Retrograde specifically, not New Malpais, is able to trigger one of our set bonus armor perks, but I will discuss those shortly. So weapons, just take a Void weapon so that it pairs with Echo of Instability. Then we have Mint Retrograde because, you know, it's a classic. Could also go with a sword for movement, or the new Wolfsbane if you have fun with that. The next topic I want to discuss is your stats, because obviously this is a grenade build, so you're going to be wanting to pour a lot of your points into grenade. Shocker. My idea is to take 160 grenade, because what that's going to mean is on your gauntlets, on your Contraverse, you can run 2 grenade fonts, which each give 20 points. And then when you have armor charge, this will put you all the way up to 200 grenade, which will increase the damage of your grenades by 65%. Then I've also gone for a firepower mod so that they make orbs to keep that cycle going. So yes, definitely 160 grenade, then you can allocate the rest with fonts. After that, I've also gone with 100 super so that I get my Nova Bomb back very quickly, with also something like an Ashes to Assets on my helmet. Can run multiple of these. I've also just gone for a special ammo finder. It's up to you. And then the rest is basically up to you. I've also poured mine into melee, but that's also just because that's what my armor allows for. Doesn't really matter. You could go health, you could go class if you wanted, or weapons. The two main stats that are actually important are just grenade and super. That's it. In terms of what archetypes of armor I have used to achieve these stats, because I know there's some of you who will probably be wondering that. My helmet is a gunner with a tertiary stat in melee. My Contraverse hold is grenadier, although it does have a tertiary stat in weapons. I would prefer this to be in something else like melee or class, but you know, that's just luck of the draw. I also have a grenadier chest piece with a tertiary stat in melee. I have a brawler pair of boots with a tertiary stat in super. Then finally a class item, which is grenadier and a tertiary stat in weapons. So just remember those, or use a website like D2 Armor Genius, which is going to help you find out what pieces you need to grind for a specific stat distribution that you have in mind. Also, on the topic of armor, we have set bonuses. And again, this isn't particularly relevant for this build because there aren't too many things that synergize with grenades, or at least armor sets that have direct grenade synergies in the game just yet. However, I have gone for the full 4-piece ion adapter. Surprise, surprise, I use this in a lot of my builds, and it's mainly just because the 2-piece makes it so whenever you get kills with Mint Retrograde or any sort of micro missile source, it'll give you a short window of damage resistance versus splash damage. So if I kill this Centurion here, I will have that timer on the left of my screen, which is still unnamed, but that is basically the damage resist. So if I turn on the enemies, these guys deal splash damage, so once they shoot me, they will be dealing less damage to me, and I'll let the timer run out, and it should be dealing more damage now that it's gone. You know, it's kind of hard to see in the firing range, but I promise you it is there. I'll get another kill to reproc it, and then I can just get some health back. There's Echo of Vigilance working, by the way. There's the overshield that you get from it. But yeah, you know, you'll occasionally be getting kills with your Rocket Pulse, so it is quite nice just to have the damage resist. If you haven't clocked on already, Rocket Pulses are basically the most overpowered thing in the game right now. Definitely expect these to get some sort of tweaking in Renegades, so use these while you can. Other set bonuses, you know, if your stats are actually better than mine, if you can get 200 grenade naturally, that would allow you to run something like triple firepower. And if you used the smoke jumper armor instead, where collecting an orb gave you a decaying amount of damage resist, which I believe is an average of 30%, only lasts for 3 seconds, but if you're making orbs with every kill because of running triple firepower, you can also get damage resist through that rather than through Mint Retrograde. And that isn't just splash. The resist from smoke jumper works for everything, but I'm sure you guys all know how good smoke jumper is by now. Although if you don't, I have also made a video where I broke down all of the new armor set bonuses that came with Axion Iron, so if you're curious, definitely go check that out. Now, as far as your artifact is concerned, there is barely anything here that actually helps because there are no void mods in this season's artifact. The only one I can think of is Shield Crush, because it states that while you have a void overshield, your melee recharges faster and it deals increased damage. Although it is for Pocket Singularity, so it is what it is. If you're in a team setting, I guess it's nice to increase your grenade damage if any of your teammates make you Radiant or Amplified, because that also increases the damage of your grenade and the recharge rate. However, the rest of the artifact just doesn't help at all. It's kind of just personal preference, up to you. No void mods doesn't really help. So we're going to wrap things up with the mods now, and for the helmet I'm taking 1 copy of Ashes to Assets so that my kills with my Axion Bolt get me more super energy. Then I also have a special ammo finder and a void siphon to help with orbs and generating ammo for my special weapon. I have 2 grenade fonts on my gloves and a firepower to get my stats all the way up to 200 whenever I have armor charge. Chest piece can be general resist mods, and for the boots I have stacks on stacks. Absolutely love stacks on stacks in this new system because it means every time you collect an orb, if you are using fonts, you get 30 seconds of your fonts, which is very easy to maintain and get another orb during that time, so it's a very nice safety net. Then I have a Absolution and a Strand Scavenger for Mint Retrograde. Finally, for the class item, I have a Time Dilation to make my fonts last longer, Reaper, and Powerful Attraction. This build is generally very good if you find yourself just wanting to try something different other than the Prismatic Buddy build or the Arc Buddy builds or just Solar. You know, there are so many fun Warlock builds to try in the game now. Bungie really did a great job with this patch. You know, despite the game being in a, less than desirable state, there are some really fun builds to mess with, even though there isn't that much content to use them in. Not for right now anyway, but definitely keep these in mind for Renegades because I doubt these things will ever be changing. I think they will probably stay as they are. Maybe there will be some slight tweaks to these grenades in terms of damage or something, but a very fun build. It's very good for survivability because, you know, you have Devour all the time, you have the occasional Void Overshield, so even in high level content, something like this will serve you well. And it doesn't actually require kills for you to get the most out of the build because you are just going to be getting the regen from grenade hits, not kills, because Contraverse is just that goated. With that said though, that does bring us to the end of today's build, so if you enjoyed, then, you know, please remember to leave a like and subscribe, as I really do appreciate it, and the dim link to the build will be in the description of the video. If you were curious about the fashion, here it is. You know, just take a screenshot and copy it if you would like to. Nothing terribly original, but, you know, I thought it was pretty nice. But anyway, that does do it for today's video, so once again, thank you very much for watching, guys. I do appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. So thank you, and goodbye for now, dear viewers.